Hey y'all, for today's video, I'm going to be sharing casserole recipes. 3 of them were new to us and one was an oldie but a goodie. I have always been someone that loves a good casserole, so I thought it would be a fun idea to compile a few and dedicate a whole video to it. Maybe you'll see something in here that you have made before, but it's been a while and you just needed a reminder, or maybe you'll see something that you've never heard of before and you give it a try and it'll be a new favorite. Either way, I really do hope that you enjoy watching. And a couple disclaimers: if you are looking for healthy recipes, this is not the video. And if you don't like cheese, you probably won't like this video because all of these recipes have cheese in them. So again, I hope you enjoy. First up, I'm making a sausage and gravy tater tot casserole. We absolutely love having breakfast for dinner. It has always been a favorite. I actually came across this recipe on TikTok, but I was also able to find it on Pinterest, so I will definitely link both of those, but it definitely caught my attention, obviously. So the first thing you're gonna do is just cook up a pound of breakfast sausage. You wanna crumble it, and then when it's fully cooked, you're gonna add in 3 tablespoons of butter. Just let it melt, let it coat the sausage. I don't think I've ever had butter in my sausage gravy, and I've made a lot of sausage gravy over the years, but it makes sense. It's going to add better flavor and just put off some more grease for the flour to absorb. I did add in a 1/4 cup of flour, and I just cooked that down for a couple of minutes. Anytime you cook with flour, you want to cook it down so you don't have a raw flour taste. But then I added in 2.5 cups of milk. Now, the recipe does specify to use whole milk, and I agree that makes the best gravy, but I used 2% because I was just working with what I already had in the house, didn't want to run to the store, and it still comes out really good that way as well. But as soon as you add in that milk, you're just going to cook it until it comes up to a simmer, and once it starts to bubble, it's going to instantly thicken, and that's when I add in my salt and pepper. I did also cook up about a half a package of bacon earlier in the day, crumbled that up, and I added in about a handful of that into the gravy. I'm going to save some for the topping. But now I'm going to grab a package of tater tots. I have to say the Orida ones are my absolute favorite for tater tots, and luckily my Kroger often has those on sale. So anytime I catch them at a good price, I like to kind of stock up, just have them when I need them. But I'm just going to take those and arrange those around the top. And the recipe does say to use the whole bag. I didn't use quite the whole thing, but I did use most of it. But now I'm going to add on the rest of the bacon. I did also shred up some sharp cheddar cheese, and I'm going to add about a cup of that over the top. Now, you do want to make sure that you're doing this in an oven-safe skillet. If you don't have an oven-safe skillet, you can transfer the sausage gravy to a casserole dish and then just add all the toppings. But I bake that at 350 degrees. You can do it anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes. You'll know it's done when the tater tots are golden and crispy. Now, this last step is optional, but I did decide to add some dry chives over the top, just like the color that gives and that little bit of extra flavor. But if you like green onions, you could absolutely swap those for those. But I thought that this looked incredible. We were all so excited to dig in. It's got all of our favorite things in there. Obviously, this would be the perfect breakfast, especially if you want to impress somebody. But we thought it was a really fun dinner. It's been a while since we've done breakfast for dinner or a tater tot casserole, and this is absolutely a new one to add to our list of favorites. We loved it. Up next, I'm making a Cheddar Bay ground beef cobbler. Now, the name definitely threw me off. When I think of cobbler, I think of dessert. I don't know, it kind of turned me away from it a little bit, I'm not gonna lie. And just the ingredients in general, like I knew it would probably be good, but I was super iffy about it. But I decided to take a chance, and I'm so glad that I did. So you start off by cooking up 1.5 pounds of ground beef. I did season mine with salt, pepper, and onion powder, but if you like actual onions, dice up one, cook it with your ground beef. And if you have a lot of grease, definitely drain it. But once mine was fully cooked, I sauteed in some minced garlic. And I'm also going to add in a can of cheddar cheese soup. I don't always do this on camera, but I do always make sure to go back in with a spoon and get all of that out. Don't like to waste anything. You'll also need a can of cream of mushroom soup. That one came out super easy. I also added in a half a cup of milk, and I'm going to add in a cup of shredded cheese. I almost always use sharp cheddar. That's just what I really like, especially in recipes, but use whatever cheese that you want to. I let that fully melt in, and then I'm just going to simply transfer that to a 9x13 casserole dish. And I did spray it with some Pam cooking spray first. With my spatula, I'm just going to get that leveled out, and then I'm going to take another cup of shredded cheese, and I'm just going to do my best to evenly distribute that all over the top. And then I'm going to scoot that casserole dish to the side and grab a box of Red Lobster Cheddar Bay biscuit mix. I like to get mine from Costco. You get 4 boxes worth into one big box. But I'm just going to put the flour mixture into a large mixing bowl, another cup of cheese, and you're going to need 2 cups of milk. I know that sounds like a lot. It's going to be super liquidy, which is going to be weird if you've never done it, but you want it to be easily pourable so that you can easily, pour that all over the top. It works out so well, I promise. That's going to go in a 350-degree oven, anywhere from 50 to 55 minutes. And when it's almost done, I'm going to melt a half a stick of butter. Just pop that in the microwave. And then I'm going to add the seasoning packet that the box mix comes with. And I'm just going to mix that together really good with my little silicone spatula that I plan to brush this mixture over the top with, which is what I'm doing here. The casserole is done. As you can see, it's a little bit golden brown over the top, and I'm just going to add all of that garlic butter mixture over the top. The whole time that I was doing this, all I could think about is how good would this be over a chicken pot pie. I am 100% going to be doing that really soon because that just sounds amazing. I know that would be really good. But I am going to let this rest for a good 5 minutes before I cut into it. The longer that this cools down, the more it's going to kind of thicken up. This is definitely not a pretty dish. I don't feel like, casseroles are intended to be pretty, but they sure are good. So here's my plate. I served it alongside some French style green beans, and this really exceeded my expectations. It tasted so good, and I thought it was funny. My son, who is 8, he said, I want you to make this for my birthday. That is his new thing. Like, anytime he really likes something, he'll always say, I want you to make this for my birthday. So anyways, I think that is saying something. Okay, so this next one is the one that I was the most excited to make from this whole video. It's going to be a cheesy chicken broccoli and rice casserole. So in this bowl, I've got about 5 boneless, skinless chicken thighs. I drizzled them with some olive oil, and I seasoned them well with some salt, pepper, onion and garlic powder, paprika, and a little bit of cayenne. And as you can see, I'm just going in with my hands, getting that all tossed around to make sure that all of those seasonings were coating all sides of the chicken. So once I get that to my liking, I am going to heat up my skillet, and I'm going to melt down 2 tablespoons of butter, and then I'm just going to start laying in those chicken thighs. Now, if you're not a big fan of chicken thighs, that is perfectly fine. You could absolutely do this with chicken breast, just whichever you prefer, but we do love chicken thighs in our house. So I'm going to flip those over after about 6 minutes, I would say, and I'm going to cook the other side for probably about 6 to 7 minutes. You do want to fully cook this. Love that sear that cast iron skillet gave these chicken thighs. But once those are fully cooked through, I'm going to transfer those to a cutting board and let those rest. And then in that same skillet, I'm going to add in some minced garlic. I'm also going to grab a can of this cream of chicken with herbs. You could use regular cream of chicken if you wanted to, but highly recommend the one with herbs. It's just extra good. And then I filled that can up with heavy cream, poured it in, and I also added in just a splash of chicken broth. Once I got that smooth, I'm going to add in some sharp cheddar cheese. I did shred up an 8-ounce block, so I used about half of it in the sauce. So here I'm going to take a minute to whisk that in, let it melt, and then I'm going to grab this garlic and herb Boursin cheese. Love this stuff. I added about half of it in here, and I'm just going to take my whisk and let that melt in the sauce. It kind of got stuck there, but just kind of pulled that apart, plopped it in there, and that melted down quickly. I'm also going to add in about a half a cup of sour cream. And then I'm just going to add in those same seasonings that I used to season the chicken. So the salt, pepper, onion and garlic powder, and paprika. I did decide to leave out the cayenne pepper though because I didn't want to overdo it. My husband and kids are a little bit more sensitive to spice. So now that is it for the cheese sauce. So now I've got a mixing bowl out and I'm adding in some white cooked rice. I was cooking this rice as I was making the sauce. So what I did, I just used a cup of uncooked rice, so obviously that doubles or maybe even triples as it cooks. I'm not really too sure, but this amount worked out. I also steamed up some broccoli, so I just poured that on the top, and I like to use scissors when I want to chop broccoli up into smaller size pieces. Works really well, really quickly. Also went ahead and chopped up those chicken thighs into small pieces. You could also shred it if you prefer. And then, of course, I'm going to add in all of that delicious, flavorful cheese sauce that I just made. And with my spatula, I'm just going to get all of that folded together really well. You want to make sure that that cheese sauce is coating everything in that bowl the best that you can. So now I'm just going to transfer that to my greased casserole dish. I don't know the size of this one, but it is a deeper casserole dish, which is what I was going for. And as you can see, I obviously didn't mix it too good because there was some plain rice sitting on the top. So here I'm just taking a couple minutes to incorporate that better. And then, as always, I'm just going to smooth out that top evenly. Now I'm going to take that other half of that shredded sharp cheddar cheese and sprinkle that all over the top, and then I'm going to bake it at 375 degrees. Could take anywhere from 25 to 30 minutes, and then I just topped it with some paprika just to kind of give it a little burst of color. And then I'm going to break into it for y'all. Doesn't that just look so appetizing? I feel like this would be the perfect holiday casserole. I cannot believe that tomorrow is October 1st and we're already in those months, but I just think the flavors will be perfect for that. It'd also be a great casserole to send to a loved one, family member, whoever. But yeah, this one tasted so delicious and it reheated really well. Not a drop of this went to waste. It was absolutely delicious. Lastly, I'm making a pork chop and hash brown casserole. Now, I have made this recipe before. It's been many, many years. This was one of the first successful meals that I made when I first really got into cooking, but it has been so long since I have made it, so I really wanted to bring it back. So the first step is to sear some pork chops. So I just had some olive oil in my skillet. It's on about a medium-high heat, and I seasoned both sides of my pork chops with the Kinder's, the blend seasoning. Now, the original recipe does call for bone-in pork chops, and that is what I have always used in the past. So this is my first time trying it with the boneless pork chops, but I did go with the thick ones because, it's going to be in the oven for quite a while. So I did a very light sear. I only did about a minute per side because I was trying to be very careful to not overcook these. So now that I got those seared in a mixing bowl, I'm going to make the hash brown casserole. So you need a can of cream of celery or cream of chicken, whichever you prefer, a cup of some sour cream, and a half a cup of milk. And then at this point, I am going to mix everything together until it's nice and smooth. Now you're going to need a bag of frozen shredded hash browns. You typically do want to thaw them for a hash brown casserole. Mine are about halfway thawed here. It still came out just fine. I did season those hash browns with some onion powder, and I decided to do some more of that Kinder seasoning. I knew that would work really well in this, and it truly did. But I'm just going to fold everything together at this point, make sure all of those potatoes are coated. I really do need to invest in some bigger mixing bowls. I have been meaning to do that. I always have an issue there. But once I got that all mixed, I'm just going to transfer that to my greased 9x13 casserole dish. I was having a time trying to grip that bowl and dump all of that out. I don't know why I was having such a hard time. But I finally got it all in there, and I'm just smoothing it out, making it even per usual. And then I'm just going to do a layer of some shredded cheese over the top. I'm just using the bag stuff for this because the previous 3 recipes, I shredded all of my own cheese, and I was just over it by this point, honestly. So still turned out great. But now I'm going to take those pork chops and I'm just going to arrange those over the top. And I did make sure to add the juice from the plate on top of the casserole as well. And I bake that at 375 degrees. It could take anywhere from 45 to 50 minutes. So here is what it looks like when it is done. If you like pork chops and you like hash brown casserole, then you should definitely like this. I will say, cooking it together like this, I absolutely love how the juices from the pork goes down into the casserole. It just makes it so much better, I swear. So I'm just plating it up with y'all. I'm just serving it up in bowls on this night, and I didn't do anything to go along with it. None of us was feeling it. We were happy with just these two things. I did top it with some dried parsley. I did do a little bit too much accidentally, but it's all good. Now, I will say I do think that I like it a little better with the bone-in pork chops. It was still great with the boneless, but it just wasn't as fall apart tender as I prefer, but again, still good. So that is all I got for y'all in this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. I hope there was at least one casserole in here that caught your attention that you'd like to make yourself. But as always, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.